This is the Lost Man podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host John.
And I'm Matt, and together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart.
Welcome to the Lost Man podcast, episode number 00011.
11. We're in double figures, fully in double figures now.
Double figures, over 2 months of airtime.
Commitment.
And today we are discussing money, good and bad habits.
Yeah.
We've carrying on from our. I want to talk into this, even though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This just keeps sitting in the corner of my eye. Right, money habits.
We're talking money as part of our January positivity. We wanted to talk a little bit about positive money habits with some examples of bad money habits thrown
ways
in
you
there.
can really get it wrong. It is easy to get it wrong, but I think it's a nice contrasting sort of. It's a nice conversation for me and you to have, because I feel like
yin and yang.
Yeah, yin and yang.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, yin
But
and yang.
You're not yin and yang.
I'm not like
you have a little splurge.
Mate, I spend loads of money. I suppose I'm just disciplined in how I spend that money. As opposed to just like without thinking.
Yeah. Are you an impulsive person in general?
No,
you're not.
I'm a fairly. I suppose I've always got a few things teed up that I want to purchase.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of bubbling away.
Yeah.
But we'll get into get into my money habits.
Yeah.
And your money habits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a good one, because no one's perfect. Money is shit because we all need it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those lost man problems, isn't it? It's what, like, you've never got enough of it. No matter how much you've got, you always want more of it.
Yeah.
It's never good enough, really.
I was listening to a podcast just on the way over here with a guy called Rory Sutherland, who's the guy who owns Ogilvy Marketing, and he's also a very sort of just a big ads guy, like really well known, super eccentric British guy, wears like lime green suits and shit, but great, really, really brilliant bloke. And he's quoted as famously saying that if women didn't exist, neither would money. And I guess the point of what he's trying to make is that whether you admit to it or not, everybody's in this status game, isn't it?
Oh, just spending to impress, material.
Yeah, and obviously, slightly outdated way of saying it. If women didn't exist, neither would money. But maybe there is something in that.
We'll get cancelled now with cancel culture.
Good.
I think we should do a podcast on cancel culture.
Me too.
Which could lead to us being cancelled.
I want that to happen.
But and then we could just have these conversations not on camera again.
So you've just inspired another thought of the main man of cancel culture, or the main man who cancel culture seems to target, is Jordan Peterson. And he's now in a position where he's losing his license based on the opinions of people on his his psychological practice, who have not only never been treated by him before, they don't know anybody that's been treated by him before, got absolutely no contact. And he was saying that he only started getting complaints about his work in the field when he became famous. Had never had a complaint before that.
Well, and when he started going like public and doing a lot more
people
public
started
stuff,
coming for him.
It's just jealousy.
Of course it is.
It's just jealousy, mate. Sean Strickland, did you see he lost that fight?
I didn't hear the word. Remove word.
He's one which, you got to not necessarily. You got to say, haven't you? The caveat. I don't necessarily agree what he says.
Yes.
But he just does not give a F.
No.
He's just straight up says it how he thinks.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in that situation, it's pushed his popularity.
Yeah.
Especially with like America, like home of the free.
Well, this is what I mean.
You know what I mean?
I think he's playing up to it. I have no doubt that he is who he says he is. You know.
Yeah, I think
but
he
he's
is.
a little. You know, he's leaning into it as well a little bit. But I actually like him. I know.
I've
he
seen
can be
loads
offensive.
of interviews with him in the last couple of weeks, and I think, just for banter, he's a funny guy.
Did he get battered?
Do you really want to know?
Well, I'm going to tell you tomorrow as well, so he'll just tell me as well.
He lost. It was by decision, and a lot of people, including Dana White, had him down 3-2 to win. So it was close, close AF.
Good fight.
I haven't even seen the highlights. Well, I've just seen a little bit of the coverage around it. Right. But because UFC are a bit funny with the highlights, aren't they?
I pay for BT Sport, which is what it gets aired on in this country live, and I can't watch it.
Yeah, this is what I mean. So I've not seen. I saw a few. The other guy's face looked way worse afterwards. Yeah. But he split his eyebrow open, so he was just gushing.
It must be horrible when you're at any stage of a fight like that, and when that happens. There's a huge psychological battle in the ring, isn't there? It's not just a physical thing. Like you think the barriers you have to go through in your own brain.
Yeah, to be like, I'm going to win and I'm not going to get knocked out. Yeah, and. Well, just the damage that's inflicted. Like the guy, I forget his name, South African guy.
Yeah.
The guy, the guy he fought, mate, in the press conference. I saw a picture of it.
That's how I used to do that, by the way. Remember when we laughed about that? When we said our career didn't start out in the most traditional way.
What, podcasting?
No. Look at what I'm doing.
I don't know what you're doing.
What is this?
A tip?
Yeah. Yes.
So you just rub your tip?
Yeah, just did it like that.
Were we going to do a podcast on stupid shit you do when you're a kid?
Yeah. I didn't realise that there was an action.
I don't think I
thought that was
it. With being a teacher, I think the kids at school would just like hound me. You can do yours.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's fine.
We'll do it another time.
Okay, fine.
It's funny.
Yeah, it is.
Can't remember what I was saying, but.
Sean Strickland lost the fight. What a shame.
Lost
his title.
Lost his title. Lost on points. The other guy's face looked a lot worse. Dana White thought he should have won. Joe Rogan, I think, had him scored to win. Anyway, right, quickly then, because we're in a bit of a rush tonight.
Yeah, we do rush. We probably look a little bit more.
I don't. I've got the same coat on, but true. I have got a shirt on.
And you have interestingly done something new with you.
I feel like I want to check it on the mirror.
Looks good.
Pass me that shaving mirror.
Can't reach.
We're off out for something to eat. So and we're meeting other people. Yeah. So very quickly, 2 minutes.
Yes.
2 minutes.
Go.
2 minute. How's your week been?
Good. Another week in new job, getting to grips with things now. Things are starting to be a little bit more like muscle memory. Starting to lead on the projects, which is good. And also had a big win with the side hustle, which was one of the brands that we were trying to get hold of. My contact there hadn't been responding to the emails, and I was thinking, it's one that we really need, it's Bell staff. And I was thinking, do you know what are we going to do? Could really do with getting hold of it. Anyway, did some more digging, got in touch with a lad, and he was just like, oh God, like, yeah, 100%, like, let's talk. No wonder you've not heard back from Michaela. She's been on maternity leave, and I was like, thank God for that.
Pesky, who take paternity leave?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
I did.
I think
it was great.
I think
paternity leave was a winner.
Serious topic here. I think paternity leave is justified, but maternity leaves. So
cancelled.
How's your week been? Go.
My week was started off with man flu.
Yeah.
Very mild. The mild. In fact, you know when we were talking about, you know those when you get that cold that
ghost cold.
Ghost cold.
Yeah.
Got that.
Mega.
Trained Tuesday night. Knew I could feel it. Knew I would wake up Wednesday.
Yeah.
So all of my advice about resting to you.
Don't matter.
Didn't listen to my own advice.
Of course not.
Woke up with horrendous sore throat. Expected next day to be horrendous blocked nose. Woke up the next day, slightly sore throat, and thought I've got away with this.
Nice.
So that's just, but has kind of like knackered, you know, like made you feel a bit
fatigue.
tired. Yeah, fatigue. So the whole week's just been a little bit of a grind.
Yeah.
Nothing to report at school. And van, done a couple of little bits on the van. Stripped it out, painted all the rust, done a whole load of like things that you'll never see, but hopefully will make it not rust inside. And
when you say painted all the rust, you mean like a few midges, cocks, scratches, don't you?
Yeah. But we just wanted to, you know, where it wasn't rusted, but maybe it had been scratched or damaged, we just put a little bit of paint on it all.
Right.
Just because, you know, when you're in a van, condensation, mate.
Yeah.
Like the amount of moisture you expel in the night, and then the temperature drops. You know, some people, if they don't insulate, literally report. In fact, one of the lads at work, he was saying that he's got a little van for fishing, and he kips in it, not insulated, just literally bed.
Yeah.
And he was saying that it's just piss wet through.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to.
Yeah, that's
sure.
I wonder if that's because I mean, surely somebody who's doing a project like you're doing it, you would hope spends the time to do some research. But God, can you imagine if there's projects where people have done that and they've just that fucks the whole ruins the whole job.
There are professional builds that people have like pranged them and took a panel off. And there's no insulation or very little. Even some of the VW ones, mate, the quality of their insulation that they come with isn't very good.
Really?
So
what a shame. The amount of money you spend for it as well.
Yeah. But I think that's why I think it's better to build your own, because you can be like, we're going full in on insulation because we intend to go to cold countries. A lot of camper van stuff, they're only really designed for warmer pastures.
Johnny, super segues. Being as money-minded as you are and knowing how much the van costs, how did you get comfortable with that decision in your brain? And is that, you know, is there a good way of describing how you weigh up expensive things like that?
Well, there's no mic there. In this case, John. In this case, John, this specific situation was I had
ramroded
railroaded by the wife into making this purchase.
Okay, fine.
So, but that is a good point. And shall we just start with some? Shall I talk about? Well, I'll talk about how I wasn't always very good with money.
Right.
I've never been bad with it. I feel like
you were one of the first people to say to me that you kept a money spreadsheet. Have you always done that?
I've not always had a money spreadsheet, but I have probably the later part, maybe the last 15 years. I don't keep one now.
Right.
Well, I do from time to time, like just to see, you know, your numbers.
Yeah.
Because in your head you're like, oh, I've got that, and that. But then actually, when you add all those standing orders together, you're like, oh my God, how am I spending £500 on standing orders of crap that is...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I think maybe money habits probably start with when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And I had a good chat with our number one supervan, aka my brother.
Yeah.
And I was asking him whether he was going to make his boys get a job. And I don't know why I'm talking into that. And we always had a job. And I don't think we were particularly forced into it. Maybe we were subtly without realising. But me and my brother I had a paper round. I worked at a garden centre from the age of about 11.
Yeah.
had a paper round, and my dad was ace because the paper round paid me £7 a week.
Yeah, man.
For 7 days paper rounding.
Yeah.
It's like £1 a day.
Mate.
For 45 minutes, an hour's work.
Mate, I had a paper round and it was £5 a week, and I got so ill with it, I ended up getting fired from this, possibly my first ever job.
I'm glad you got fired.
And I basically one day just threw all the newspapers over a hedge.
That will get you fired.
And just went home.
Yeah. Well, it's for that £1 you'd have earned that day.
Yeah.
So I always had a job, and I think that is an important part to have instilled in a young person. I know with our little man, I certainly will be like, come on, get a job. Oh, and that's what I was going to say. My dad, because I got paid nothing, he doubled whatever I earned.
Nice.
Until I started earning more than he was happy to double.
Yeah.
Until I was about 15, 16.
Yeah. So that's a real incentive to get out there.
Massive incentive, especially when you recognise you're like, because when I was working at the garden centre in the paper round, I was getting £7 from that, £5 a day from the garden centre, and that did go up to £10 like as I got maybe as a bit older. So my dad was just basically doubling that each week. So I was earning like 20 something quid a week. But the problem with the paper round, mate, was you used to spend it before. So you'd have it on tick, on sweets.
Yeah.
So I'd get to the end of the week and I'd be like, oh, can I have my pay?
Yeah.
You owe us.
Yeah. £18 a strawberries.
And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is horrific.
I think you're right. I think getting kids working early is a good thing. But I started working early as well, and I think that. So my jobs were paper round, but that didn't last very long. And then I got a job in a takeaway. So when I was at high school, one of the lads, his family had a takeaway called Roosters in Cheadle, and we all his parents were, cool with us just, being lads in the back sort of thing. So there were sort of 5 of us from school that all worked together. And, there was something cool about that because we were sort of 12, 13, 14, did it for years. And, that was like riding there. I mean, you couldn't do it now with a 12 or 13-year-old, riding there at sort of 5 in the evening, then riding home at like 2 in the morning. And that was, we were doing that whilst we were at school.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be allowed to do that now.
But the thing, what I'm going on with is that, and I'm just going to bring us back to an old podcast, something that was said on an old podcast, which was, I think we were talking about Christmas and we're saying about how Casper had been, saving up for his contribution to his PlayStation 5. And I think you'd said that your dad had done something. And so I don't remember. So I think that it actually starts way before the age where you should and could be getting a job. I think that there's more little bits that you can instill in people. Definitely.
Yeah, I think Rob does that with his kids. And I think, like I was saying in that podcast, I used to have to save up, and like for Christmas, if I wanted something big, it was like they would put in, and I would have to put in X amount. So I think that's important.
Whereas I think that when I was a kid, because Dad was a car dealer, and it was a cash business, there was always like briefcases of grands just in the house, and it almost made money lose its value a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Money kind of was more like, I don't know. It just it in hindsight now, looking back, it was more just like any other piece of paper in the room, sort of thing.
So I think some positive money habits I've got now. Oh, that was the other thing. What for now made me have the best money habits was going part-time at work and going partially self-employed. So
because it was like, wow, need to square.
Yeah, because before I was never bad with never going beyond my overdraft limit, and I was always conscious, and I was way more frivolous there. And also there was always this element of like I never earn enough. Like I was always spending more, but I wasn't like dripping in designer clothes or anything. It was just like life was expensive when you're in your 20s,
of course,
and you were, you know, like you're starting out and you're trying to save up for stuff. Like for Ginny's wedding ring, I was working weekends on top of teaching to pay for that. But going self-employed, so I went being full-time, earning like $3,500 a month after tax, to going self-employed, and I was partially self-employed, so down to 3 days teaching, 2 days on my own and any other time. But so it like chopped my income more than in half. Well, in half pretty much. I always felt like it was a bigger chunk than what seemed fair. And so up until that point, I would go and spend into my overdraft and be like, oh, it's all right, I'm getting paid at the end of the month. So if I've got a $2,000 overdraft, it kind of like bumps me out, and then I'm kind of like back in a little bit. And you're in that kind of like overdraft trap.
Yes.
And when I went self-employed, I was like, right, no more overdraft trap, because I didn't have the money to dig myself out each month and pay my bills. And so since then, which was what, 7 years ago, whenever it was.
So how long it's been since you've been part-time?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Since then, I have always been pretty strict on... There's times when I've used credit cards, like 0% credit cards and stuff like that, but being pretty strict on not buying stuff unless I've got that money there. Because it's so easy just to...
I think it's so easy, and I think it's very... I think if you get yourself into a... So I'm going to have a little bit of a rant now. I think if you get yourself into problems with money, in terms of the eyes of the system, it's very tricky to get away from that. You know? And I can remember when I first opened my bank. I opened my first bank account with HSBC when I was 18, and I'd had other accounts before that. You know, just like, I can't think what they were now. Like just a kiddie account sort of thing where you had a charge card. And or like a card where you could get cash out but you couldn't use it in the shop, you know what I mean? Anyway, and I remember signing up for that bank account, and it was old school, like you went and sat in with the guy in the back room of the HSBC in Hazel Grove.
Yeah, mate,
and then he kind of went into this stuff, like he was like, so what about loans? Have you thought about loans?
Mate,
I was like, no. You know, what can I get? And he was like, well, we could easily get you £1,000 and it'll be 125 quid a month. And for me at that age, you know, because I am the opposite as you, I'm very impulsive. It's got better as I've got older, but in those days I had no awareness around my impulsivity, and I was just like, and I didn't go and do anything. I just went and bought a gold bracelet because that's what was cool at that particular time, and then just probably, you know, just I don't know, just it probably went away fast,
on just getting pissed up.
But then what happened was, following that, there was, for a long time, you know, talking about 5 or 6 years, there was always like this kind of chasing my tail with money, just basically, you know, just kind of like trying to claw back that initial, you know, mistake, which just seemed to just happen. And that meant that you were supplementing yourself and your lifestyle with a credit card, again from the same bank. But where I really went wrong, I've had a couple of things that have gone really, really bad for me from like a credit file point of view. And one was when I got to about 26 or something, I had a credit card, and for whatever reason, the place that I was at in my life at that time, I was just firing through money with absolutely zero care about having to pay off that credit card, and charges got more and more and more.
It's slippery, isn't it?
It was a default that went on, basically, and that default lasted, I think it's either 3 or 6 years, I can't remember how long it was, but what I can remember...
What is the default?
Just means that you've defaulted on your payments back on your credit card, but in such a way where it's consecutive.
Yeah, it's on the system. Yeah, it's on your financial record.
And then the other thing that was bad that happened was, and this was, you know, everybody can judge what they think who's at fault here, but I used to work for a company, and it was on an industrial estate, and everybody used to park around the industrial estate. And towards the end of me working at this place, for some reason they just double yellowed the whole industrial estate. But everybody in the business, talking thousands of people, the different little businesses that were there, just carried on parking on the thing. So sure enough, everybody got slammed with a ticket, and they came round. And there was a big sort of like hoo-ha going on with the business, where the business was, because the people who, it wasn't a council thing, it was just some Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Well, that's when people could. Well, they still can to some degree, but like parking charges.
But this is it. Well, this is the thing. So this, and I agree, and I have done that where I've just braved it with a company that isn't the council, and they've lost touch with me. But this one in particular, what happened was, I moved away from the business, and I moved house, and this is where my error comes in, is that I didn't swap over
forward your post.
So after about a year and a half, and I went to get credit for something, I didn't get it, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? So checked my credit file, and what had happened was this Mickey Mouse parking company, the bastards, had basically put a CCJ against my name.
So
I had a CCJ. So I paid it off straight away. It was only like 280 quid or something like that. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
But that mark, and that happened, it was a lot later than my mid-20s when that one happened.
Do you just call me Mark?
No. The mid-20s one was the HSBC, but this happened in my like mid-30s, 35.
Yeah.
And that was like, and it was just at the time when I was starting to take saving up to get a property seriously.
Yeah.
And it just went slap.
Yeah.
6 years.
Suck it.
And it's like, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute. This is like, surely there's a conversation to be had here.
Yeah, no,
but they had me over the barrel.
Pretty much screwed. You can't.
No, they
you
had me over the
literally
barrel.
can't get it off your record.
And then the only way you could even try it, and because I said to them, is there nothing I can do to appeal? They said you can pay to appeal 250 quid or whatever it was, 400 quid. I can't remember how much it was, but it's a risk, and the chances are when it goes to thing. I mean, have you got? Because what I didn't have was any leg to stand on, really.
Yeah.
And but so for that period of time, and it's still on there. For that period of time, every time I look at my credit file, it's just in the sort of the okay territory. Everything is pristine.
How long until that drops off?
I think it's next year. Everything
takes time, doesn't it? It takes the piss.
And everything is absolutely pristine. There's not one late payment. I balance my checks every single month perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's just
that's a good top tip that for any. And I still feel we're not giving that education at school.
No,
we don't give decent financial education at school, and there's two parts to that because we do give a bit. One, most kids are not receptive to it. It's the last thing on their brain, but they really should be. And two, we just don't allocate a good enough amount of time to it.
No.
We're not trained in it, so you just like reading it off a thing or whatever. And but top tip there: any financial cock up that you make stays on your system for years. And that could be not paying your phone bill. Like if you don't pay your phone bill on your EE contract, paying your rent, paying your car loan, paying a parking ticket, like that stuff can haunt you and then stop you getting a mortgage or even just like it's the way the world it's like it can stop you getting a good rate of interest on further credit, which is crap. So the people that need the credit more or probably need to pay less interest on it end up with the worst deal.
Mate, the whole system is set up to fail because, especially with Experian, people who've got a good credit score aren't going to pay for Experian. They know they've got a good credit score, they've not got to worry about anything. In the most part, some people will be curious, they'll want to go on and check or just keep an eye on it. But when you sign up for Experian, and you're sort of like keeping on top of your credit score and you're trying to get it better and you're working at it, you are constantly bombarded with emails from experience saying, do you want to take out this credit card?
We've pre-authorised you for these loans, and you're like, oh my God. The other thing, mate, that I feel is
properly evil, actually.
Yeah, no, of course it is. Of course it is. The other thing I think's really evil, off money but very slightly, is gas and electricity, right? So-and-so hasn't paid their bill, probably because they're skint, right? What do? You can't turn their gas and electricity off by law. I think they have to give it so much. They put them on a pay-as-you-go meter, right? Which you would think is the same price
of course not.
as paying direct debit. No. It's like the worst possible price you can get for your gas and electricity is on a pay plus meter. How is that fair? They're paying for the same product. It should be those people. Obviously, most people on a meter generally have trouble with money or whatever their situation is. Of course, that is the reason. They should pay a fair rate. Mate. They should pay the same as. It's just,
and it starts to get a bit where it starts to get murky. And I don't think either of us, or I don't think anybody knows what the real answer or motivation is. But it's like this kind of there's two parts to it. The first one is the keep the poor, and that ties in with what you were saying before.
Mate,
with
it's just rinse the poor. It's rinse the poor.
But it ties in with what you were saying before about there's not enough education on money management at school. And I said that to a friend of mine once, a really bright bloke, and he was like, yeah, well, that's what they want. They don't want loads of people who are really good at money. Because if they did, then the system would get found out.
Be overwhelmed. The other thing with that, mate, I found that out about gas and electricity because I was sorting a house out, a changeover at a house in Sheffield for Ginny. New tenants moving in, and the old tenant had been put on a meter. So I didn't want them to move in. I think they had a young kid. I didn't want them to move in without having preloaded a card. That's the kind of landlords we are, by the way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure it worked, and I wanted to test that the boiler was all fine. Mate, I spent 2 hours driving around Sheffield trying to find, because there's numerous different cards. There was one shop, this was in Crooks, the house. I drove around every place that said it had meter payments. They all accept different cards. It was an absolute nightmare. Finally found the correct one, London Road. So the other side of Sheffield City Centre. So if you have probably on a meter, I'm guessing most of them won't have a car. They might rely on public transport.
Maybe.
They might, maybe not. But what I'm saying
I know
is
exactly where you go.
What I'm saying is
it's not exactly easy.
It wasn't as easy as like phoning up a number on the machine and going, "Here's 10 quid." But it's on. I had to drive round for 2 hours. Imagine if you were doing that by foot or on bus. It took the piss, mate.
I tell you something that's interesting when you start to think about it, and I'll never forget. I was talking to somebody about a Black Mirror episode, and we were also talking about the social score that they do in China. So it was this idea of like
I have seen that episode.
With the episode, and it's like every time you don't let somebody in who's trying to get it, or you kind of like give somebody a bad eye or something like that. You go, you have been minus X amount of whatever. And and it's the same in China where they have this, and it kind of dictates what things you have access to, and basically, how free and easy your life can be.
It promotes in China, like ratting on each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I will tell that they're doing that, and just to elevate my own status.
Yeah, exactly. And in China, it's all about the hive mind. So there's not. So I guess, from what I understand, this is probably a really inappropriate thing to say, but perhaps loyalty amongst strangers isn't as, I don't know, maybe that's wrong, but completely off track with what I was going to say, which was this person was like, yeah, God, can you imagine if it was like that here? And I was like, 100% it is like that here. What do you think the credit score is?
Yeah, credit score.
Yeah, if you've got a low credit score, then you don't have access to the... And you know, is that how the world has to be? I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't understand how it works, but it does feel like there's a massive amount of injustice.
I don't think you shouldn't... I think it's a good...
Like we're not all born in the same environment,
yeah, of course,
and the same opportunities and all those kinds of things.
I do think that you should be incentivized to be good with your money, but what I don't agree... So I agree with that element of it, but what I don't agree with is being persecuted
and
to that level, basically. Like, you know, with the gas and electric meter cards, you know, they should be paying the same as somebody on a direct debit.
Definitely.
Why is that on that level?
The persecution is real, and not just at a, like...
and with you, like, it being on your record, it shouldn't be on your record for 6 years. I mean, come on, like... At least half it, 3 or 2. You know what I mean? Like 6 years is such a long time.
If you think
for
about
you to suffer with something bad on your credit history.
I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that if you get caught, this has just occurred to me now. If you get caught drunk driving, you get a 12-month ban, right?
Yeah.
So if you do something,
yeah, no, hang on though, but. It then is on your insurance record.
Yeah, so they get you that way as well.
Yeah.
So you
but
have to
even
pay
then,
more
I don't
insurance.
think it's that. I think it's like 3 years.
But yeah, so
you can break the law.
Yes, it is for 3 years.
And
exactly
have 3 years of pain. On your insurance premium, as opposed to, or maybe it's 5 years.
But if you make a genuine mistake, and you know, just an unfortunate set of circumstances,
it could just be that you. And this has happened to us, but we caught it in time, that we just didn't have the money for one thing in one of our accounts, and it pulled it out, and then it bounced it back, and I'd seen it like the day after, and I phoned them up, and they're like, "Oh no, it's fine." But
that exact same thing happened to me, and they tried to charge me, and I was like, "You're not charging me 60 quid for this."
So on direct debits, you can. You know, I think there is an element of
it's still on the file though.
Yeah,
it's still on the file. It'll still show up as a missed payment because they said that to me, and I was like, "Well, can't you know? This is like 12 hours." What had happened was it's when I'd moved jobs and my payday had changed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that there wasn't money in the account. It was that there was a direct debit set up. There wasn't a direct debit set up, and typically, when I got paid, I'd sit down with all my stuff, and just that particular one was just something that I just paid without a direct debit. And because the payday had gone back, and the direct debit, the payment date was set for, let's say, the 24th of the month.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But born out of those things, money habits in the positive. Well. You know, let's start with spreadsheet. I definitely keep a close eye on a spreadsheet, and that helps my particular brain manage money throughout the month.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I don't have a spreadsheet current. I do have one, but not like an active one currently. Right. So I did update it probably about 8 months ago, just to see what our incomes and outgoings are. And actually, mate, having said that, there's a lot has changed in that time in terms of like our mortgage repayment and stuff with it going up. So something I'm going to do is find the time just to sit down and re-update that, because it's so easy to think, oh, we've got that money coming in, and in my head my overheads are only this. But actually, when you put them into the spreadsheet, you're like, oh my gosh, like that like internet, that phone, every other bloody subscription. I tell you, I think a little tidbit is to do your spreadsheet and cut some of your subscription services out.
100%.
Because that is definitely a really active business model at the moment. Everything is subscription.
Huge.
Mate, do you know what I read the other day? BMW are loading their cars with all of the features so that so the second person
Tesla do that.
So the second person that buys it, basically, they just if you go, I want heated seats, you just BMW whatever, and then boop. Yeah. Do you want it for 1 year or 3 years or lifetime?
Mate, I just took out a Sky subscription and like on the phone with them, and it got to this price, and I was like, all right, great, yeah, mega. Everything comes, everything's there. Sat down to watch TV. Went to fast forward when the adverts came on. Oh no! If you want the fast forward the ads version, that's an extra £5 a month. Went to do something else. If you want to do this, it's extra. Mate. Yeah, and you just fully and at the time, this is to your point, and kind of another little tidbit which is obvious but worth saying, which is you have to check your statements and go right. Because at the time you go, oh yeah, $5.99 for Microsoft Office. I do need that actually, yeah, and that's okay. Oh, $16.99 for Pliability. Okay, I do need that. That's fine. Yeah, and at the time it's like it's only £16. That's all right. And then £9 for Mixcloud. Well, I do put some mixes on there, and that's quite cool. So £9, that's no problem.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then you're like,
and the other thing is though, after a year, all of a sudden it's not £4 for whatever. Yeah. It's now £18. And you're like, what? Yeah. Mate, I was paying, get this, over the summer I looked at my bank statement and I was like, that's really odd. Why am I've not bought anything from Amazon. And I was paying, and I don't know how long I've been paying it for, but a second Prime subscription. So sometimes, very rarely, I'll order stuff on my own Amazon account if I don't want Jins to see what it is.
Yeah.
If I don't want
because it's presents for Jins.
Yeah, obviously. It's always a present for Jins, gift for Jins. Yeah. And that is where I've probably clicked Prime Delivery, on. Yeah. And I've got that little subscription going without even knowing. Yeah. So check those subscriptions definitely.
And also, when you just quick tip. Quick tip is
love a quick
when
tip.
you sign up for that, free for the first 30 days. But then £1 million after that.
Experian gets you for that.
Set your bloody alarm for the day before, because you'll forget that. Forget that,
or just do it and then
delete it straight away.
Straight out.
Delete it. I saw one the other day, and it was I was driving through Manchester town. It was a big billboard for something called the Buzz Bike, which is a little bit like, I guess, what Peloton are doing, but a physical bike.
Yeah.
And it was like from as little as £2 a day. So, to me, they're trying to do like a little sort of marketing trick where it breaks it down into such tiny chunks that it's like, I was like, £2 a day.
Well, that's £60 a month.
£60 a month.
Yeah, it's huge.
To rent a bike for. Yeah. So my Orange Crush is, I think it's £52 a month, something like that, and that's for. Not the very latest, a 2022 beautiful hardcore
mountain
what
bike?
Are they called?
It's a mountain bike.
No, but
Orange
it's
Crush.
aggressive hardtail.
Aggressive.
That's what I was thinking.
Aggressive.
Not hardcore. Aggressive hardtail. From possibly definitely one of the top 5 bike brands, in my opinion.
In your opinion.
In my opinion. Not your opinion? They've just been bought by somebody.
I saw they nearly went bust, mate. Yeah. I think they've been bought internally. Yeah. Because, I don't know why, but obviously they ran out because the bike industry is in. Bike. Right, top 5 bike brands. Slight segue. We'll come straight back to this though. Top 5 bike brands. I would put. I really like Stanton bikes as my number 1. Yeah,
they're your version of me with Orange, I think.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. And steel, titanium, really well made bits of kit, loads of little tiny design features. If you're like a lot of mountain bike. Well, some mountain bikers are very like.
I'm sorry,
nerdy.
viewers. I shouldn't have asked him this question.
Nerdy kind of. They like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Little details. That's why I like those. I rate Propane, although I liked them before because I thought they made good bikes at an affordable price, but that's kind of gone out the window because bikes, mate, an e-bike is more expensive than a mint motorbike. It's weird. And I know there's a weight thing, but I can't. I mean, that's why the bike industry, one, they over-ordered because of COVID, and then like everyone's into bikes. Let's all order millions of bikes.
Same with the fashion business.
And then, no one wants bikes, and no one's got any money. And two, at the same time, they're overpricing everything. Everything overpriced. Too expensive. People won't pay it now. Loads of second-hand ones on the market. You can get right deals. Other bike brands I like are Kona. Love a Kona, mate. Love a Kona. Do you know why? Kona, and I know everybody says this about their bike brand, the first to do long, low and slack. But I tell you now, Kona and Stanton, I feel really were at the forefront of that long, low and slack design. And then, like, I like the branding of Santa Cruz. I've never ridden one, and I think they're well-made bits of kits. They do great warranty and stuff like that. I can see why that. I wouldn't be able to pick top 5. I'd just pick top 3. And it just so happens to be bikes that I've owned as well. So, I don't know. Going back, though, to flying back into money. Where were we with money?
Well, I think we were just kind of like thinking of some quick tips.
Oh yeah, quick tips with money. I think yours was spreadsheets. Mine is about
and also just not doing the out of sight, out of mind thing, which is so easy to do, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
Where it's at the end of the month and you're about to pay for something, and it's like 12 pence, and you're like, is there please be 12p in the account? And you're looking at the cashier and you do go, is he paying cash or card? Card.
Hopefully.
Please. Ding. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah. Keep your eye on that shit.
Yeah. I think mine would have to be, if we're talking just solely about money, and it took me so long to learn this, but as I've described, like trying not to spend on credit.
Right, yeah.
Trying to buy things
and save up for them.
Yeah, save up for them.
Yeah.
So like if you, instead of buying your camera, that's another one they've got us with recently, Klarna.
Oh God,
Klarna,
yeah.
Like, PayPal does it now. Pay 3 payments.
3,
and it's like
no check,
it's
just
so
boom through.
It's so tempting.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you then have all of these like payments, and that income that you get in each month is like so diminished by the time you've paid all your little payments.
Mate, I tell you, when I used to work at Country Attire, I used to make a good salary, but it was like every single month hindered by 200 quid or something like that, because
you got
in your downtime you're like, and you're watching all this new products come on, and you're like, oh right, 600 quid for that jacket, but I wonder how much it is with the discount. Oh, it's only 320, and then what you do with Klarna as well,
£100 a month for 3 months.
Fine. Boom.
My other big tip, and I feel like I could do a podcast on this.
Is it a big tip or a quick tip?
It's a quick tip.
You've got to be very careful.
The quick tip is, and this is another thing that I only learned in my 30s, when I suppose I was starting to mature and think about where is my future financially, where is it going?
Yeah. I've just had a good idea for quick fire questions at the end of this, so we'll move on to that after this.
Is my big tip, my quick tip.
Right.
My quick tip, it's not quick at all, and it requires some reading, but it was, if you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, I don't know why I'm speaking what's wrong with you?
Unknown.
If you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert I'm going to butcher his last name because I think it's Japanese, Kubitsa or something. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and basically, to sum it up in one sentence, he says, invest in or buy assets, not liabilities. And what I mean by that is buy an asset is anything that has potential to make you money. And obviously a liability are things that cost you money. Cars, clothes, all of these things, material items are devaluing at a rate of knots. So when you switch to that mindset of, okay, you classify all purchases within that realm, is it an asset or is it a liability? It's almost like I had clarity on my spending as well. It was like...
And you're allowed to own liabilities.
Of course you're allowed to own liabilities, and, you know, but when you switch your thinking to, could this potentially make me money? No. Maybe I could wait then. You know, it's just a want. Could this, like... investing in a camera that might enhance our podcast that could then lead us to having this as a business in the future, you know, is that an investment? And you know, whether it's investing in whatever it is, you know, a property or a small business, or buying a box of something and then selling them on eBay, whatever scale it's at, when you switch to that mentality, I think you will have you can have just a different way of looking at money.
Okay, I think that's a really good, and I'd say that's a big tip. Big tip. It's a big tip in the house. So that moves us nicely on to the quick fire questions, and I think you'll like this one because it's quick fire, but it's also going to be a little bit of thinking, and I think we'll be very similar on our answers on it. What 5 things are you happy to spend over £1,000 on? Go. So obviously holidays, like experiences.
Holidays, experiences should be up there. Holidays, your house. Investing in your house. Car, I do find painful to spend on cars.
But I think
something you use every day.
Do you know what I think? I think houses and cars aren't almost in it, because if you imagine,
they are though, some cars, mate.
But if you imagine, it's like, the car is basically the cost of the monthly payment. So I'm thinking like...
Oh, right, okay. I was very happy to spend money on my mountain bike hobby. When I was doing that. And to be honest, I've always liked riding, and I'll always ride whether it's on whatever level it's on. And I would always spend on like decent things. I'm a firm believer of like buy cheap, buy twice kind of thing. Like, I'd rather save up and get something that's a bit nicer, but feel confident that it's going to last. But that is a dangerous thing in itself, because like with cars, a car can get you to A to B for £1,000, or you can spend 100 grand. You know, there's such a range within that.
And what it then...
I tell you what's an easier question.
Go.
Is things I hate spending money on. Clothes. I am not into fashion. I find it very hard. Like, I'd say this year I've probably spent less than 100 quid, 200 quid on clothes. But then
2024.
2023. But then I'd say if you said to me, oh, that pair of riding trousers are 120 quid, technical fabric, waterproof, I would spend that money.
You used to like a diesel jean.
It's like you were saying, like a status thing. Like,
it is.
I don't see any status in a brand, generally in brands. Like, I see value in like North Face, because this is like, it keeps you warm, it does a job, it functions well. Whereas a pair of jeans, really...
I tell you where I think that what we're seeing with starting a business in that world is that people generally are much more interested in the value-based proposition, not a price proposition, not cheap.
Yeah.
It's like, right, like you say, okay, what does this, and it's almost similar to what you were saying about, buying decisions. It's like, what's this coat gonna give me? Like, what am I gonna get out of it? Whether that's an incredibly high cost per use, a technical kind of advantage in some way.
Functional.
I like spending money on, I probably don't like spending money on clothes, actually. I like spending money on good pairs of footwear or like stuff for equipment for the gym.
I will buy a nice trainer. I will happily like a trainer, but only once a year. If that sometimes. But like these Niger 3s, they have not, look at the state of that.
Yeah.
But that is because I do size down a little bit sometimes.
Right.
Like I like a snug fit instead of like boat shoe.
I tell you what I like spending money on as well is tech.
Yeah, because there's a big like difference in quality from not a good piece of tech to a good piece of tech.
Like I think I spent 900 quid on my last TV. 800 or 900 quid. And I could have easily spent a lot more.
Could you?
Oh yeah.
I did want an OLED TV, but I just settled for the standard because I just thought,
see, stuff like that, I noticed the difference, and I would have just been like at 500 quid.
Yeah, well, that's as you get older, you enjoy finer things, don't you?
Yes.
And I think you develop taste in things.
Well, I mean, case in point is the PC. I have no regrets around buying that at all.
And as you have as you earn more money, you have more. You start to think, but don't you think you always want that like? I can afford that.
Yeah.
Now I can afford that.
Yeah.
But I'd really like.
Want that one.
Oh.
Well, mate, the industry is set up to get you. But I tell you another annoying thing, and I might make this. Doesn't have to be yours.
No,
it might be my final point.
I think it should be our final point because we need to go.
Another thing that I really hate is spending money on things that I've already spent money on, but that have either been broken or stolen. Like, for example, my car got broken into the other day.
Did it get broken into?
I left my car unlocked the other day. Some chancers stole £6.50 out of my little box
next to
my steering wheel.
Some little crackheads.
And I thought they'd stolen my coat, but because my car is always in such immaculate condition, I hadn't realised that it was actually. It hadn't been stolen. It was just somewhere else. But I found it. But the point I'm making is that between
you would have been
between thinking it had been stolen and then finding it, I was looking at new jackets because I've got hikes that I want to do. I want a technical jacket.
It's a good job you didn't buy one.
I know. And it was like the one I was looking at was 600.
Mate, I know.
For a jacket.
And you know what? If you are replacing anything now that you've had for a couple of years, like 3 years, the price difference is insane. Like
that's actually a good way to measure it, isn't it?
Yeah.
To see, that's a good point.
Like I was looking at, like pre-COVID, like I was looking at my snowboard jacket that I bought in COVID because everybody just had these huge sales. So I bought Burton. What's that nice technical fabric? Burton. Like waterproof but breathable.
Gore-Tex.
Burton Gore-Tex coat. And I think I only paid like 150 quid, 100 and something quid in COVID, like middle of summer COVID sale because the snowboard season just collapsed. And now I looked at it, 700 quid.
Yeah.
700 quid. And I mean, like, I'd be spewing if you had to replace that.
And in the words of a wise man, on that bombshell, Matt. Cheers, brah.
We'll retouch on money because I think it's a huge topic and a good one as well.
Great topic, great podcast.
Thanks for listening, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button, follow us on Spotify, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
We need to go. Wait, what time we supposed to be there?
7:30.
Oh, right, okay.
We've got 22 minutes.
Well, we're not going to make that, but what we are...
This is the Lost Man podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Matt.
And together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart.